Alright guys, welcome to Formula 1 news. The Barcelona Grand Prix is seeing major upgrades this weekend for many of the top protagonists. Ferrari have a brand new rear wing that we'll dive into in the coming minutes, but Mercedes were also rumoured to be bringing some relatively major changes. Turns out though, their change is going to be a weight reduction to their car. An upgrade certainly in terms of lap time is expected, but also in terms of the balance they can generate around what can be a good circuit for Mercedes, certainly over the last few years. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. First of all, some response here from Max Verstappen to what was said yesterday by the promoter of the Silverstone Grand Prix. If you guys didn't see it, basically what was said was, well, Max is dominating nowadays and the British drivers aren't winning anymore and therefore people aren't, buying the tickets. The reality is that Formula 1 for, ticket purchases is probably more popular than ever. But in Silverstone, it's, let's be honest, more expensive than ever. And actually, Max just straight claps back at this, and I think fair play. It says, I don't think it's my fault. The current F1 season is very exciting with several teams fighting for wins lately. If a promoter can't fill all the seats, maybe they need to look first at themselves and see what they are doing wrong. If other places, they're managing to fill the stands quite nicely, he says. I don't know that lots of people have been saying as a result of the comments made yesterday. You look at some of these ticket prices, you think, wow, I can literally fly, and people are doing this, literally flying to Hungary, staying in an Airbnb for 4 nights, flying back to the UK. That's cheaper than going to Silverstone, and actually quite substantially cheaper than going to Silverstone. You can do the same for Monza, you can do the same even for Barcelona. Many have done that. So, yeah, I think Max is probably on the money, to be honest, making the comments that he has done. Just a further update as well on this Newey stuff. We're still speculating as to where Newey is going to end up. I think it's going to be somewhere, because let's be honest, would he be entertaining these advances to such an extent if he was committed to retiring? I don't really think so, especially when the rumour as of today is that Newey actually made a secret visit to Aston Martin's facility, to such an extent that the staff were requested to leave the factory during the visit to try and stop news of the visit being leaked. Of course, it's come out anyway, you can't stop this type of stuff emerging, but very interesting if that's true, if it was very recent, that Newey at least is still considering the options out there. As I've said before, I wouldn't be surprised if Newey waits to see what the full draft of the technical regulations looks like before making a final decision. And I'm not sure Aston Martin is the option that I would go for if I was Adrian Newey, given that Ferrari is almost certainly on the table, but at the same time it's certainly a reasonable one. The problem I would say for Newey, certainly if you're looking at Aston Martin, is whether they are actually a serious organisation in the longer term, because it's again been confirmed today within reason that Lance Stroll is going to stay. Lots of talk on the driver market as always. Daniel Ricciardo actually made it quite clear that he doesn't intend to go anywhere from RB. And to be honest, I think this comes from 2 places. Firstly, that he wants to get the Red Bull seat at some point, which seems unlikely now, especially given Perez's extension. I'm sure Ricciardo's hope was when he came to this team that he would do enough over the last year and a half to prove that he deserves the Perez seat at Red Bull. That, of course, has not happened. But also, let's say Ricciardo was to get fired, or they were trying to, put Lawson in instead of Ricciardo, which they may well still do. Like, they've confirmed Yuki as a driver for next year. They've not confirmed Danny, right? Like, he could well be out. And let's say he is out. Where does he go? Is there interest from other teams on the grid to sign Ricciardo? According to rumours, not really, right? So I think for Ricciardo, it's about saying, well, I actually kind of like it here, not necessarily because he wants to stay at RB forever, but more so because there aren't really any other options out there on the table at the moment for Ricciardo, as and when things might potentially change around. So we'll see what happens there going forwards. But this is on the Lance Stroll stuff, and actually confirms today that his continuation should be announced soon. So, obviously the guy just has a rolling contract. There should be no surprise here. Even Sergio Rodriguez says that this is a done deal now. Canadian flag for Stroll, British flag for the Aston Martin team. Pretends to be shocked, he says. And yeah, obviously we know at this point that it's going to be happening pretty much. And that's the thing. If I'm Adrian Newey, I'm seeing them extend Lance Stroll year after year. And sure, over the last couple of rounds, Stroll's done well against Fernando Alonso. But, if Stroll is ever out-qualifying Alonso, that's just a bad day for Fernando, right? It's not like Stroll has suddenly magically turned a corner and all of a sudden is a godlike driver. We'd have seen more evidence of that if that was true over the last several seasons that he's now been in the sport. Stroll isn't the worst driver on the grid as far as I'm concerned. But if you're Newey looking at Aston Martin, you're thinking about, okay, do I want to join this team? What's the future going to look like with Honda coming through? Obviously, Alonso can't be there forever. you look at Lawrence Stroll, you look at the relationship to Lance Stroll and the driver of the team, and you think, okay, is this really a serious team that's going to try and win the Drivers' and the Constructors' Championships over the next couple of seasons? Lawrence Stroll can say what he wants, but, sometimes, of course, actions speak louder than words. This on Carlos Sainz, because I expected, to be honest, them to confirm where he was going to go this week. I thought during or before the Spanish Grand Prix, there might be a confirmation, but actually Carlos says he's still not sure one way or another. Now, to be fair, one way or another, okay, it's not one way or the other, but this kind of implies two options, does it not? I don't know, maybe I'm just reading too much into this, but it kind of implies to me that in Carlos's head, he's like, okay, either I do one thing or I do the other thing, effectively. And let's be honest, there are realistically two options here for Williams and then other, right? And I guess Audi would be the other, but I guess, there's also Alpine. But, yeah, I don't know so much about that one, right? So I still think Williams makes the most sense, but Sainz says that no, he's not made a decision yet, but a decision will be taken very soon. I don't want to wait any longer. It's getting to a point where it's taking too much space out of my head. So this statement, I don't want to wait any longer, kind of makes me feel like he's made his mind up, right, hasn't he? I don't know. Like, I'm kind of confused that we've not seen more on this yet in terms of confirmation, but that's what Sainz says. Of course, a home Grand Prix for Sainz this weekend, and even Kevin Magnussen says, look, the cork in the bottle is that, guys. It's Sainz over there. A lot of the guys are waiting on him to make a move, right? Because once Sainz decides where he's going to go, then it opens the floodgates for the other teams to get their drivers signed in the relatively near future. Let's say Sainz, though, does go to Williams. That's a pretty mega driver lineup they've managed to put together there with Sainz and Albon, assuming that turns out to be true. And what about Logan Sargent, right? Because he'd be gone, of course, at that point. And actually, Logan has been reacting to just the difficulties that he's had lately. Part of it is the fact that the Williams car isn't great. It's also massively overweight, as we'll see here in a second. They are going to try and bring upgrades to change that over the coming rounds, but it is a big problem for the current Williams. They just lost so much development over the winter because they were trying to effectively focus on the future and renovating the factory and the operations rather than focus necessarily on this year's car. And also, they didn't have any spares, so when Alex Albon crashed in Australia, and then there's been all the incidents, sending it back to the factory and then getting it back out there to the next Grand Prix, it's been a real disaster. And Logan's car actually just hasn't been as good from a pure chassis perspective, apparently, than Alex's. So Logan says, look, they really know how to push me in this team, but he will get, I think, potentially a new chassis like Albon's this weekend. We'll see if that helps him at all. I know Alex Albon was making comments like, look, I know that Logan's fast, but, it's just not really working out in terms of consistency right now. And actually, Alex Albon did say that back in Bahrain, when the Mercedes wasn't that good, it was good until the race, actually. They had some engine overheating problems and stuff that they were suffering with then, but Alex actually said that the Williams would have beaten Mercedes had they had their car on the right weight. And there were rumours emerging around about Miami on the 16th of May that they were losing 4.5 tenths a lap on just pure excess weight. So there's a theory that 10 kilograms extra weight is roughly 0.3 of a second. So, basically the Williams was 15, 20 kilograms overweight, which is mega, obviously over the limit that you're meant to try and get to if you possibly can. And this, it seems, is also a problem for other teams, or even if it's not a problem, it's certainly something that they can benefit from trying to focus on. The lighter the car can be, the better in many ways. I think there's also an argument maybe that, do we even need a minimum weight limit? Like, what if you told the teams there is no minimum weight limit to make the car as light as you possibly can and want to, but of course, you've got to meet all of these safety requirements? Probably that is going too far, but reducing the weight limit further, is that a terrible idea? I don't really know if it is. Obviously, will teams find loopholes to pass the safety experiments in the static test, but in real life it might be different, just to save a few kg. Maybe there's a risk involved in doing something like that and allowing the teams kind of the free rein to make the car as light as they possibly can. But it is at least worth thinking about what the future of the weight limit in the sport might potentially be, and Mercedes also getting involved in some of these weight-saving measures. It was a big talking point actually at the start of 2022 because everyone had worked so hard on the 21 season. 22 comes around, so much to do, brand new car design of course being unveiled. The Alfa Romeo was known at the start of that season to be the car closest or on the weight limit. Nobody else really had made it, and Alfa were good at the start of that season. Bottas scored, was it a P5 in Miami? had a few good results. Then as the other teams dropped weight, certainly Red Bull, for example, they all of a sudden started to become really competitive. It was quite well known that the Red Bull at the start of 2022 was quite substantially overweight, and while they started bringing some of those, issues out of the car, the weight-saving measures, then their car got really fast. But it did affect them. For example, Barcelona 2022, when his DRS, Max Verstappen's DRS, wasn't working behind George Russell, that was a consequence of weight saving on the rear wing actuator that meant that it just failed effectively for a large period of the Grand Prix. But this weekend, there are major upgrades all around. Red Bull have a package, and this is a pretty big deal, of course, because over the last few rounds, they've generally won in the hands of Max, but Perez has been nowhere, and it's been very competitive in the rest of the field at the top of the grid. But at the same time, if Red Bull bring a major upgrade to a circuit that should suit them, how does that end up working out on track? Ferrari, their upgrade this weekend, by the way, was planned for Silverstone in whole 2 weekends' time. The rumour is that Ferrari have worked really hard to bring this upgrade package not just 1 weekend in advance, but actually 2 weekends earlier than initially planned. So, and I think for both cars as well, that is the current rumour at least. So a big package here for Ferrari. Let's talk about a new floor, let's talk about, new other elements, new rear wing, as well as a big one, because they brought a new rear wing, I think, specifically for Monaco, and of course they won in Monaco. So this is interesting to note. And even Fred Vasseur says, despite a shocking Montreal Grand Prix, and I'm sure they've done the diagnosis, they've done the debrief on Montreal, what went wrong, what do we need to do in the future to ensure that we don't have another terrible weekend like that where literally 0 points were scored. But clearly Fred is confident that was a massive one-off and outlier, because he's still making the statement that if they get a 1/10 of a second improvements in terms of pure performance, they can become the world champions. Basically what he's saying is, bring us an upgrade worth a smidgen and we will be in position to challenge for the world championship, certainly in terms of the constructors. And who knows whether that 1/10 of a second could arrive this upcoming weekend. This is the new medium to high load rear wing on the SF24. Interesting what teams use around here in Barcelona, because it is on the, medium to high downforce levels. The majority of the track it's great, and also degradation is high, so higher downforce is generally better. But on the big straight, of course, the top speed is kind of nice. But then again, if you're in a DRS train, then it doesn't so much matter having a larger rear wing, because you gain the DRS advantage, right? So that could be a good sign for qualifying, but also at the same time getting energy into the tyres is another question that Ferrari have struggled with to some degree so far this season. And even Leclerc, though, says the update should help us at the slow speeds. This has been a big talking point for most teams other than Red Bull, really. Certainly McLaren had the same thing, where their car's good on the high speed, good on the medium speed, but in the lower speed there are some problems. Mercedes, on the other hand, good in either the low speed or the high speed, but they couldn't make their car work well in both conditions until recently, where James Allison said they were trying to solve that problem, Mercedes, of struggling in either high or low speed by making setup changes to the suspension and stuff like this. They then realized they can solve it aerodynamically, changing the front wing, which is now what they've done. So Mercedes say that problem of kind of difficulty across a range of corner types has now been solved with their latest upgrades, and Leclerc says this new upgrade this weekend for Ferrari is going to help them in the slower speeds. There are some slow speed corners in Barcelona. There are a few that are, at least relatively tight hairpins and stuff, but is it going to be enough to overhaul Red Bull in what should be a pretty dominant machine this weekend? That remains to be seen. But some of the big talking point is, how will Mercedes do? I watched Tomo's video kind of talking about his expectations for the Grand Prix. Let's talk about Mercedes this weekend. For good reason, they're usually very good here. They put it on pole last weekend in Montreal. So, what's the future? Hamilton, by the way, very good at this circuit historically. Won here plenty of times, I think 5 times in a row. He won here at one point. So, Mercedes should be in contention if their car is good enough. But they're not going to bring any major aerodynamic changes this weekend. There were, I think, rumours about a new floor, but that doesn't seem to be happening anymore. But instead, there will be underneath the car. So maybe it is a new floor, but it's merely a weight-saving floor rather than an aerodynamic change to the floor. So they'll be saving some weight. Now, what does this mean for the state of the car? Because you might think, well, surely Mercedes have been on the weight limit. No, if they're not at 798, they've done a pretty bad job, which might well be true. The benefit, let's say they're at 800 and now they're going to be at 795 or something with this change to the weight-saving measures of the new car. that is going to make some degree of impact, not because you can run the car at 795, you have to run it at 798 or whatever it is, but it gives you the option to run some ballast in the car, right? So if your car is significantly underweight, you can put 3 kilos of ballast here, 3 kilos of ballast there to change the balance and effectively to make the car behave more so in the way that you want it to. So, you know, the weight saving stuff is key. It's helped multiple teams over the last several years, and even if it's not going to give a pure performance advantage theoretically, it is going to make the car easier to set up, easier to handle, and therefore faster. So there will be some benefits from this upgrade, I think, for Mercedes this weekend. We're going to see where their car truly stands. It's also worth recognizing something that kind of, you know, slipped my mind in a way, is that McLaren have actually scored a podium in the last 5 rounds in a row. Actually P2 or better. China, it was Norris P2. Miami, he won. Imola, it was Norris P2. And then obviously Canada as well. And then Monaco, it was Piastri second place. So the last 5 rounds, we have had P1 or P2 every round from a McLaren, which is quite the something to think about given the fight in the constructors right now. And, you know, it's not out of the realms of possibility at all that McLaren, with a couple of changes themselves, can be a serious threat this upcoming weekend. So very much intrigued your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments. Just one final thing here from AMUS. They interviewed Stefano Domenicali, and of course, whenever this guy talks, you know what he's going to say, but I thought I'd have to mention a couple of these things, unfortunately. There were a few very interesting pieces here, such as the number of Grand Prix. Exactly as many of us expected, the line from Domenicali on the number of Grand Prix we're going to have has changed, because of course it has. Nobody is surprised at this. When Domenicali said a while ago, no, we're happy with 24 races, that's a good number. I think Greg Maffei at Liberty Media said a similar thing. Now Domenicali says, well, I don't think 24 is an oversupply. Look at other sports. Football and basketball are played every other day. They entertain their fans much more intensively, basically saying, you know, we could ramp this up. These are rookie numbers, you know, 24 Grand Prix. Why not 25? Why not 30? Why not 52? Or, you know, whatever the case might potentially be. And he actually confirmed as well that they will increase the number of sprints. This year there's 6. Next year expect 12 or whatever. I really don't like the idea of this. I don't have to make that clear again. But look, Domenicali's looking at the bottom line and he's saying, look, at the end of the day, more people tune in for the sprint race on the Saturday or for qualifying on the Friday than they would for a practice session. And I get that. But I think that they're somewhat missing the point in the longer term in terms of what it means for the sport. And look, chase the short-term numbers and the revenue and the value that drives for the shareholders, but don't be massively surprised if the value of the sport starts to diminish over the coming years. There was also this statement on a rotation of tracks, because I don't know if they do go above 24 races. I don't know how far above 24 they can realistically go. So he has opened the door here to effectively rotating Grand Prix. And this has been done before and it'll be probably done again. And apparently it's going to start in Europe. So, you know, we've talked about legendary circuits such as Spa. Might not be on the calendar every year. It might be every other year. You know, maybe there are some positives to this in the sense that circuits such as Hockenheim might be able to come back on like a rotation basis. That is something to think about. But yeah, some interesting and insightful words said, but frustrating nonetheless to some Formula 1 purists out there, maybe such as myself. Just to mention though, this weekend, Montreal was wet at times and very exciting as a result. Barcelona has the potential to do something similar. Today, it's been bad weather. It's been raining there. It's been apparently pretty damn miserable. The rest of the weekend, the Friday, the Saturday should be okay, but Sunday, there is about a 40% chance right now of rain during the Grand Prix. So, I mean, that would really open the door yet again wide open, but very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.